A band of heroes ventures into the dark forest on a quest to reclaim their homeland. Each carries a mighty regalia, a weapon that grants them strength beyond human limits. Confident in their abilities, they are ready to face the terrifying dark beasts living within the forest. But the moment they arrive, their driver is violently hurled into the abyss by one of the beasts. The rest of the group leaps into action as their leader, Stefan, commands them to form up and charge directly into the heart of the dark beast's lair. One of the heroes, Katz, carves through the monsters with his whirlwind technique, tearing down anything in his way. Meanwhile, Stefan decapitates a massive snake-like creature with his blade, but despite losing its head, the serpent still lunges at him. Just in time, Alicia drives her sword through its eye, delivering the final blow. So far, the team's holding their own. With the weaker monsters now taken care of, they push further into the cave in search of the Beast Lord. Eventually, they reach the cave's core, only to come face to face with Clevatess. And the moment they feel its aura, they know this fight will be brutal. The sheer pressure radiating from the beast is overwhelming. Stefan remains confident that with their regalia and teamwork, they can take down anything, even a monster like this. But teamwork won't be enough this time. As they rush into attack, Clevatess swats Stefan into a wall with terrifying force. Panic sets in as the group realizes their strongest warrior has been killed. Still, the tank steps up. Convinced he can turn the tide, he leaps into the air to strike, only to be instantly decapitated before his blade even comes down. The rest of the team is finally starting to grasp that a head-on fight isn't going to work. But by then, it's already too late to retreat. Clevatess has started eliminating them one by one using his tail. Confusion spreads among the group, as they struggle to understand how he's moving so fast. That's when Alicia notices that the attacks are coming from their own shadows. She quickly shouts for everyone to jump, hoping to break the connection and put some space between them and the deadly strikes. Thanks to her quick reflexes, she deflects the beast's blow and stays alive. Unfortunately, the others aren't as fortunate. One of the remaining heroes tries to summon an earth dragon golem by driving his spear into the ground, but it becomes clear the ground is under Clevatess's control. As a result, the summoning fails and several tails erupt from the earth, cutting him to pieces. The lance wielder attempts a full-on charge, hoping to overwhelm Clevatess, but while he's desperately fighting for his life, Clevatess calmly wonders how such fragile humans even made it into his domain. With little effort, he eliminates the remaining heroes, leaving only Alicia alive. She's been dodging non-stop, using her sword to stay just out of harm's way. After a relentless effort, she finally gets close enough to strike Clevatess's horn, but even her most powerful blow barely leaves a mark. Meanwhile, Clevatess remains lost in thought, baffled by the sheer foolishness of humans invading his domain after 1,000 years of peace. Still, if they insist on provoking him, he'll have to come up with a lasting way to keep them away. But first, he needs to handle Alicia. With a swift motion, he cuts her leg and sends her plummeting to her death. Not long after, Clevatess shows up at the human kingdom, burning with vengeance. He had no intention of interfering with the human world as long as they stayed out of his, but they couldn't resist, trying to invade his territory. Based on what the heroes said before the battle, it was the King of Heian who sent them. So now Clevatess intends to pay the king a visit and have a serious word with him about it. The kingdom's archers quickly respond to the threat and prepare to take down Clevatess. But as expected, their arrows are completely useless against him. Still, despite the obvious gap in power, they keep firing as if it might somehow make a difference. Clevatess originally planned to ignore the rest of the humans. He only came for the king, but now that they've chosen to attack him, he mercilessly cuts them down as he makes his way to the castle. The castle guards scrambled to ready their defenses, turning their catapults toward Clevatess. But just like the archers' attacks, their weapons are completely ineffective. Clevatess tears through the castle walls like they're made of paper. Inside the castle, a guard rushes to warn the king about Clevatess's assault, but the king has already heard the destruction unfolding outside and knows exactly what's happening. The heroes he sent clearly failed, and it's obvious now that the weapons of Heian weren't ready to take down Clevatess. He understands that Clevatess is likely coming straight for him, and there's no point in trying to escape. Clevatess would find him no matter where he went. Still, even if death is inevitable, the king is determined to seal off the forge and ensure the flames of Heian never die out. Meanwhile, outside the castle, Clevatess is confused by how weak these humans are compared to the heroes who confronted him earlier. At first, he assumed they might have undergone some kind of elite training, but after the castle's guards launch metal ballistas at him, he realizes that their strength came from their weapons. Reflecting on the battle, he remembers how Alicia's sword, despite doing minimal damage, managed to leave a mark on his horn, something that should have been impossible. Though humans are little more than insects to him, even an insect armed with such a weapon could pose a threat. Realizing this, Clevatess decides he must investigate the source of their power. Meanwhile, deep within the castle, the king makes his way to inspect the forge of Haydn, but before he can do much, the walls around him start to tremble. Realizing that Clevatess is close, he quickly seals off the forge. Just moments later, Clevatess smashes through the castle roof with his tail, and the moment he lays eyes on the king, he calls him out directly. The king tries to maintain his composure, insisting that Clevatess has no right to address him so disrespectfully. But Clevatess quickly shuts him down, warning him to mind his tone, because if he truly wanted to, he could erase all of humanity in a heartbeat. And not just the people of Haydn, but those in the surrounding kingdoms too. He points out that he spared the king so far, but even killing him wouldn't solve the problem. Eventually, another ruler would rise and once again threaten Clevatess's domain. So Clevatess gives the king of Haydn a single chance to explain himself. He demands to know why the heroes were sent to attack him. But instead of offering a real answer, the king arrogantly says a beast like Clevatess could never comprehend anything. That's all Clevatess needs to hear. Without another word, he decapitates the king and begins plotting to erase humanity from existence. As he leaves the ruined city, Clevatess stumbles upon a crying baby, whose mother has been trapped beneath collapsed rubble. Clevatess feels no pity for the child. He chooses to ignore it and keep walking. But then the dying mother calls out to him, begging Clevatess to save her baby. Clevatess is taken back by the mother's request. He reminds her that he was the one who destroyed the kingdom and has already resolved to exterminate all humans. Then why would he ever spare a human child? The mother acknowledges his reasoning. Yet she argues that even if the adults brought his wrath upon themselves, her child is innocent and doesn't deserve to die. Clevatess mentions that to him all humans are equally worthless, so her argument pointless. Still, he asks if she can prove that the child has any value. The mother realizes she has no way of convincing Clevatess, especially with her death fast approaching. Still, she vows that if he spares the baby, he'll one day see its true value for himself. Shortly after, she passes away, and Clevatess leaves without a hint of emotion. Yet he eventually returns for the child, suggesting that her final words did leave an impression on him. He's still uncertain whether taking the baby is a wise decision. But given how brief a human life is compared to his own, he figures it won't make much of a difference. Driven by curiosity, he decides to take care of the child for now. In the land of Edia, 5 humanoid races coexist. The first are the Dun, a kingdom renowned for their architectural prowess and tactus. Next are the Orgites, a people known for their expertise in hunting and medicine. The Sladens are aquatic beings adept at swimming and fishing. Then there are the Benti, a barbaric race inhabiting the wastelands. They are powerful individuals but hopeless at cooperation even in dire circumstances. And lastly, there is the Kingdom of Hymns, the most ancient of the humanoid races, masters of weapon forging, creators of the legendary blades of Haydn. While Edia is vast, the world beyond its borders is shrouded in endless darkness, home to the dark beasts and their 4 lords, including the fearsome Clevatess. Because of this, no human has ever ventured beyond Edia's edges. Back in his cave, Clevatess brings the baby along with him. After frightening off all the beasts to ensure the child doesn't get eaten, he lies down beside him to rest. However, he's unsure what to do next. He could share some of his energy to keep the baby healthy and avoid the risk of him dying anytime soon. But at the moment, the baby is covered in poop. Clevatess didn't plan on dealing with something like this. So without hesitation, he picks up the baby and drops him into a pit full of insects. The baby bursts into tears instantly, but Clevatess calmly tells him there's no danger. The insects only feed on poop. He put the baby in there to get him cleaned up. Still, that doesn't make the experience less terrifying. Even after pulling the baby out, the crying doesn't stop. And Clevatess is quickly growing tired of the non-stop noise. Still, as a dark beast lord, he can't just abandon the choice he's made. But if the child is going to survive, he'll need a human caretaker. So Clevatess heads over to the corpses of the heroes he defeated, hoping one of them might still be of some use. A short while later, Alicia regains consciousness and finds herself gazing up at the sky, confused because she distinctly remembers dying. She starts to question whether she's in the afterlife. But when she notices Clevatess nearby, she realizes she's still inside his cave. Out of reflex, she reaches for her sword. only for Clevatess to inform her that he already tossed all the weapons and the bodies of her comrades into the depths of the Clevatess. He explains that she seemed like she might be useful, so he chose to bring her back to life. At this point, Alicia is essentially a walking corpse, only able to move because of the dark energy Clevatess infused into her. He then orders her to be useful and produce some milk to feed the baby. It takes her a moment to fully grasp what he just demanded. But it's clear he's serious and it's not a request. He genuinely needs the milk. Without waiting for her consent, he uses his powers to make her obey. But after several minutes of trying to feed the baby, Clevatess eventually comes to the conclusion that it's not working. Alicia points out the obvious. She's a virgin who's never had a child, so of course she can't produce milk. She also questions why someone like him would even bother trying to keep a baby alive in the first place. Clevatess has no interest in justifying himself to Alicia, but since she can't produce milk, he'll have to find another use for her. The baby won't die. Not as long as he sustains it with his energy, but its hunger will never be satisfied. Frustrated, he demands to know if Alicia has any other way to obtain milk. Alicia can't go against Clevatess's order, so she informs him that the baby will need a wet nurse for feeding. However, that means traveling to a human town, something that would definitely spark fear given his current appearance. To avoid this, Clevatess chooses to take on a human form. He adopts the same appearance as the child's mother and decides to go by the name Clen, naming the baby Luna. Clen then asks Alicia to show him the way to the nearest village. But before they set off, they stop so Alicia can clean Luna's blanket. As Alicia washes the blanket, she notices that it bears the royal crest of Haydn. Meanwhile, in the ruins of what once was Haydn, word of the devastation has already spread. A scout is dispatched to check on the aftermath and is stunned by the destruction caused by just one dark beast. This only reinforces his belief that attacking one of the beast lords was a reckless decision from the start. The timing couldn't have been more unfortunate. As the attack happened on the very day, the crown princess was meant to escape the kingdom with her son. Outside the kingdom, a group of soldiers from the kingdom of Dunwaits, ready to take advantage of the situation. They decide to invade Hayan and take control of the forge before any other nation can claim it. Back at the river, Alicia questions Clen, demanding to know if he was aware that Luna belonged to the royal family when he took the child. Clint, however, is completely confused and says he has no idea what she's referring to. Alicia then explains that the blanket Luna was wrapped in bore the royal emblem, something only the royal family is permitted to use. Thinking back, Clen recalls that he found Luna beneath the castle debris, which does line up with her being royalty. Still, this revelation doesn't affect his plan going forward. Alicia questions what he means by the rubble of the castle. Clen casually replies that he was the one who destroyed Haydn and killed the king the last night. Alicia is in shock, struggling to believe that Haydn is truly gone. But Clen reminds her that they were the ones who ambushed him first. To him, it's no major concern, but Alicia insists it's a huge deal. If Clen really did wipe out Haydn and Luna as the only surviving royal, then countless people will soon be coming after him. Clen doesn't understand why. Alicia goes on to explain that only members of the Haydn royal family possess the ability to use the unique forging techniques behind the creation of Haydn weapons, but as soon as the words leave her mouth, she realizes she's said too much. Up until now, Clen hadn't really considered what he planned to do with Luna. But if the child is truly that significant, then Clen figures he wouldn't mind turning him into the new king of the humans. That way, he could manipulate everything from the shadows. And if the humans ever crossed the line again, he'd have the perfect position to crush them completely. For now, they still need to find some milk for Luna, so Clen tells Alicia to hurry up. Alicia still doesn't understand why Clen is so fixated on the child. But one thing is clear, if anything were to happen to Luna, Clen would likely wipe out every human on the continent. With that in mind, Alicia knows she has to protect him no matter what. But just as Clen becomes distracted, a bandit sneaks up from behind him before Clen can react. She's struck and knocked unconscious. That was the first episode. Subscribe, don't miss the next part, and thank you for watching.